7 having officially released here now, and with us being only a couple of days into the season as of recording, it is December 3rd. No idea if this video is going to get out on that date, but I'm going to goddamn try to get it out on that date. We have quite a bit to go over in regards to what's new in this chapter. So here's what I'm doing. I'm bringing back an old little series of mine that I kind of had initially abandoned, but I want to kind of bring back just so that way I have an excuse to talk about Fortnite on a semi-consistent basis here. So pretty much it's going to be like that 1 week in, 5 weeks in, 10 weeks in, that sort of series that I kind of fucked up pretty early on there. I, for some reason, initially started that during Fortnite Wilds, which was probably the worst possible season to have started it in. However, I figured, hey, let's bring it back. It's a new chapter, and it's a great excuse to go ahead and bring something like that back. Plus, gets you to tune in every couple of weeks here. So, how's this going to work out? Well, moving forward here, every couple of weeks, whenever a new update releases, I'm going to take a couple of days here to go ahead and play it, gather some gameplay footage, and then I'm going to go ahead and create a video to showcase what's kind of going on with it all here, and to just kind of give my thoughts, my opinions, what could change, what is good, what I'm not a big fan of, that sort of thing. As always, these videos are going to be structured in a more positive light. However, I'm not afraid to give criticism, but it's not going to be criticism in the sense that I'm just going to be calling something completely horrible out of the blue. I'm going to have a sort of thought process behind what I like and what I dislike, and I'm going to explain kind of my reasoning for that. I do want to say up front, these videos are completely unscripted. I've never liked the idea of scripting videos. I feel like it makes them a little less real. I feel as though there's somewhat of a more personal touch when you just get to kind of discuss something, when you get to gush about something that maybe you like, or just talk about something you dislike and how it could be improved, that sort of thing. It's just a bit more real, and I've always wanted my videos to have that real touch to them, something that kind of differentiates them from other YouTubers who would rather have a scripted sort of essay, a video essay, if you will. There's no harm in doing those sorts of video essays there, not at all. In fact, those are how I used to do some of my videos. Personally, some of my favorite ones were scripted, but with this series, I want it to remain real. I want it to remain just as personable as I possibly can. That's something I feel is missing, and there's not enough Fortnite commentary out there, so that's something that I kind of want to try and bring to the forefront here. Give people something to just listen to. So yeah, you can go ahead and listen to this maybe while you're eating, while you're doing something else. I know you're probably playing a video game while listening to this. Hell, you might be playing Fortnite right now. You might be playing Chapter 7. There is a very real chance that that is what you are doing right now, and that's perfectly fine. I don't expect anybody to actually watch the visuals in this video when it's really not all that interesting, if I'm going to be completely honest with you. But hey, sit back, relax, grab a snack, and let's talk about the launch of Fortnite Chapter 7 Season 1, Pacific Break.
rock. You gotta have heart, son, if you wanna go. Watch this sweet chariot swing low. What you gonna do when the fire roll by? You better be ready to fly.
Now, the first thing that always comes to mind, at least for me, when we get a new Fortnite chapter is what map changes are there? You know, obviously when you get a new chapter, you get an entirely new map. This year was a very interesting one. To kind of go into a little bit of perspective for Chapter 6, when that chapter first launched, in my opinion, the map had already peaked. So pretty much every season we got after it, while there were still some seasons that had great map changes, like, at least in my opinion, I think that the map changes in Chapter 6 Season 3 were phenomenal. Some of them weren't that great. I feel like Chapter 6 Season 4 really struggled with the map changes, and the absolute worst it got was Galactic Battle with all the Star Wars POIs. Chapter 7 Season 1 already starts off pretty strong, but there's quite a few POIs here that I just feel like are filler, and I mean that in the best way humanly possible, by the way. I don't mean that in any negative sense here. We really have a well-structured map on our hands here, and while I know there's definitely going to be some people that aren't super into the graphical style that this map is going for, I'm personally loving it. It feels like everything Chapter 5 wanted to be, mixed with everything that I don't know, I really like it, okay? It reminds me a lot of Chapter 3, which, again, need I remind you, is my favorite chapter of Fortnite to this date. To start, we have a whole desert biome back on the map to the right side of the map. A majority of the map is still like grasslands that you're going to be exploring there, but having biomes right away is very nice. In case you weren't aware, maybe you don't follow Fortnite as much anymore, Chapter 7 is entirely based on the west coast of the United States, so California, Nevada, that sort of thing there. So you're going to see a lot of things from that part of the United States here on the map. To give an example, we have Battlewood Boulevard. Battlewood Boulevard, I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. It's Fortnite's take on Hollywood, and this is an okay POI. It's a pretty big location. There's lots to explore here. Hell, I haven't even explored everything, and they really did a good job kind of getting that Californian feel in this one POI. You even have the Battlewood sign there. On the complete opposite end of the spectrum, you have a POI like Sandy Strip, which is Fortnite's take on Las Vegas. You even have an arcade with machines that look suspiciously like slot machines. Fortnite promoting gambling now? That's a joke, obviously. It's an arcade. But I like that they threw that in there. You even have, like, the little gemstone looking thing, which is supposed to be a parody on the Las Vegas Sphere. I think that's pretty cute. It's a little sprite, and I love the sprites from Chapter 6. Easily one of my favorite parts of that whole chapter. You also have Classified Canyon, which is a fun little take on the Area 51 concept. It is Area 07, of course. That's most likely in part due to the fact that the 7 are at the forefront of the storyline. We are going to get to that here soon, I promise. And all in all, this whole part of the map is pretty awesome. Then you have the other POIs that, in my opinion, while they might be filler, are still enjoyable. Riptides is obviously just supposed to be kind of like a beachy POI. There is actually a weight here that you can lift. It takes a couple of minutes to lift, but if you go around and find protein, as in like some steaks and just other things that you can quote-unquote eat to bulk up, then it actually shortens the time of that weight that you can lift. I just thought that was a cute little detail, and it gives you some loot as well. Then you have Bumpy Bay, which seriously feels like San Francisco. I love this POI, it's great. But by far, the standout POI on the map is Wonky Land. I want to go into detail about Wonky Land here because there is just so much about this POI that I think is awesome. There's interactive games here. Specifically, one that a lot of people are talking about is a shooting gallery game. It's about 30 seconds in length. You can just use any gun there, and it's relatively easy. And if you do well, which if you don't do well, what are you doing, it'll give you really good loot. And you can just repeat this and continue to get good loot. I think it's a little overpowered that you can continue to get that good loot there, and honestly they should make it a one-time thing. But I do think that it is cool that they have something like that nonetheless. There's a water slide that you can also slide down. Literally, if you go into that water slide, it will force you to slide. I think that that's really fun and legitimately just amazing. We also have a lazy river which surrounds the entire POI, and there's little tubes that you can push into the lazy river and actually ride the goddamn thing. That is so cool. They did not need to do that, but the fact that they did makes it just puts a big smile on my face. There's also a roller coaster in this POI. It's a grind rail roller coaster, and while I don't have any footage of it here, it is pretty neat. It's nothing too crazy, but hey, we got grind rails back in the game at Wonkyland. Might be something that you can use. By far my favorite part of Wonkyland, though, is the Wonky Wheel. It's a giant Ferris wheel that you can actually ride, but the best part about it is it gives you redeploy. So if you drop here and Storm looks like it's pushing kind of far away, you can just ride the Wonky Wheel all the way up to the top, and then you can just jump and it'll give you redeploy. It's pretty good redeploy as well. Compared to Chapter 6 Season 4 with the super launch pads that they put into the game, wasn't a fan of those. This is pretty nice. It's a one-time thing. You're probably not going to be using this again in the entire match, but that's also just something that's really just stupidly fun. This is, in my opinion, one of the best POIs Fortnite has ever done, and I like the monkey mascot a lot. I'm not going to buy the skin, but hey, it's pretty cool. At the center of the map as well, we have Loop Labs. I'm going to touch on this very briefly here. Once again, I don't really have any footage of this here, but it is still a great POI. Loop Labs is where the Zero Shard is currently being held, and there's some weird lore stuff going on with Loop. It's really giving me Imagined Order vibes, although I don't necessarily think this is the Imagined Order. There's clearly some lore implications going on here. One thing that I do want to mention is that there's like this tube thing underneath of it, and it's a giant circle that goes all underneath of the map, and you can use it to teleport to different stations around the map. I think it's really neat that this is something that you can do. However, it's also not something that I can see myself actively going out of my way to use. It's very situational, but I like that it's here nonetheless. Loop Labs, great POI. All in all, we have a great map here. I don't think there's a single POI that I outright hate. However, there's some POIs that are just ripe for being replaced. Humble Hills does not strike me as a POI that a lot of people are going to really remember, and it's something that, honestly, it can go away. It can go away in like a Season 2 or a Season 3, hell, even a mini-season. All in all, though, still a great POI. Sus Studios exists. What did you want me to say about Sus Studios? I mean, it's a decent POI. It's sure. Now I want to touch on the weapons this chapter, because I think that they're all pretty good feeling. So let's start with the assault rifles here. So we got the Deadeye assault rifle. I feel like this one's gonna be an assault rifle that either you are perfectly fine with if you like the first person red dot sort of guns, or you're going to absolutely hate it because you hate the first person red dot assault rifles. There's really no in between. I'm personally a fan of those assault rifles. I've been a fan of them ever since the MK7 got added to the game in Chapter 3 Season 1, so naturally I was going to gravitate towards this one. And the sight on this is actually really good. I really like this sight. I like the way that the gun sounds, and they use the M4 model very similar to the one that we had during Chapter 1 and Chapter 2, so it's kind of giving a little bit of nostalgia there. All in all, this is a good weapon. Also, you can reload in first person, and I think that it looks really cool. I also got the Enforcer assault rifle back. It's not moddable, and it is hit scan. This thing went from being just an okay assault rifle to something I actively enjoy using in this season. So that's pretty nice. Let's move on to the shotguns here. We have two shotguns to look at. We have the Iron Pump shotgun, and we have the Twin Hammer shotguns. Both of these are pretty good shotguns. The Iron Pump shotgun finally hits for 205 to the head. This thing is a beast, and it's my preferred shotgun personally this chapter, And the twin hammer shotguns are pretty interesting. So they're dual wield shotguns, and they kind of are like our auto shotgun replacement. You can hold down a fire and will fire at a pretty consistent pace, similar to like a tac shotgun. And they both feel pretty good. I don't think either of these are overpowered. I think they're both balanced just right, and I love how they both feel. The SMG this season does leave a little bit to be desired. The Hollow Rush SMG feels like the Chapter 5 SMG that I don't remember the name of because Chapter 5 was one of the chapters of all time, but this one still feels okay to use. It just doesn't feel like it's anything special. Once again, not a moddable weapon, and it is hit scan, which is good. They clearly are never going back to the bullet drop era of Fortnite again, which I think is good. But hey, I think it's a welcome addition. Good first person SMG, certainly better than the first person burst SMG from Chapter 4. I mean, anything's better than Chapter 4, but hey, this one, it's just okay. We did also get the arc lightning gun. It's something. It's a fun weapon for sure. I mean, you kind of pull it out, you hold it like a minigun, and you fire electricity at people, and then it has like durability, it has a cooldown, that sort of thing. Oh my god, this is just a Winston weapon from Overwatch, Jesus Christ. It's not a bad weapon, but it's not something I find myself wanting to pick up. I don't think this is gonna end up being like an overpowered weapon situation. More likely it's gonna end up being kind of like the lead spitter from Chapter 6 Season 4, where it looks cool, it sounds cool, and it just feels like a powerful weapon, when in reality it just straight up is not. And finally, I want to touch on the Vengeful Sniper Rifle. What did they do here? The Vengeful Sniper Rifle does not feel good to use. Damage-wise. Like, genuinely, the damage on this thing is way too low for it to be considered a sniper rifle, in my opinion. It is a poor excuse of a sniper. However, every other aspect about this gun is really cool. I like the sound of it. It's got 3 shots in it. The sight is really good, and I feel like it's easy to hit people with this thing, but its damage is shockingly low. When it comes to a sniper rifle, it should be one-shot headshotting. This does not do that. This is the lowest I think I've ever seen a sniper rifle headshot, hitting for around 168 to the head with a legendary version. It is not good at all to carry, but it feels good. That's the issue. I'm so mixed on the sniper, and I can't recommend picking it up at all, but if it gets a buff, it's going to be in my loot pool, like, loadout every single match that I find it. Every match that I play. It needs a buff. Epic Games, buff this sniper. Give it 200 headshot. And don't make it do 86 body shot. That is terrible. A couple of other things to go over here. We have a collaboration item with Kill Bill, the Forsaken Valblade, and it's okay. It doesn't do the most damage. It's definitely not a Chapter 6 Season 1 situation with the Typhoon Blade. That thing pretty much dominated the loot pool. We had OP medallions that kind of just made me not want to fight that thing at all. In contrast, this one is not necessarily a mobility item in the sense that it gives you like a ton of super fast sprint and you can dash with it. You have to be a little bit more skillful with this thing, and it doesn't do the most damage. It does have durability. I feel like durability is just pointless when I've used these things several matches in a row and they haven't broken on me once. But it's still something to point out in the loot pool here. We also got a wingsuit item. I love this item. Apparently, it plays very similarly to the Just Cause wingsuit, according to a couple of my friends. I've never played Just Cause, so I can't really back that up. But hey, this is a really fun item. I've seen some people online say that it sucks, but I think they legitimately just do not know how to use this thing. Just get good. That's all I can say. Just get good. You don't use your controls like WASD, control stick, that sort of thing. It's entirely based on how you're angling your camera. That is the best way of putting it. I think once you go into it knowing that, it's going to be a lot easier to use. There's another item this season, the Self-Revive. So this is an interesting item. So the Self-Revive is, on paper, a really cool idea. You get an item that allows you to revive yourself in the heat of battle while your teammates are fighting like another team or something, you can pop this. It takes about 10 seconds to fully go through, and then you're good. Let's say that you're in a close quarters battle, though. Maybe you're playing builds specifically. In solos, this thing is fucking useless, because if they see you get knocked and then you immediately pop the self-revive, they're going to finish you. There's no chance of even getting that self-revive. The best chance that you're going to have is if you're far away and somebody just snipes you, which with the sniper this season is not going to happen. Or maybe you get beamed from far away and you have a self-revive. It gives you a little bit of a second wind if you can time it and use it the best way possible, but just in general, this item is useless in solos. In things like duos, squads, trios, that sort of thing, though, it can be pretty useful. And the gameplay that I am showing you for this item, I had to get on my own because I wasn't able to really use it otherwise. So I ended up jumping off of a ramp just to get the gameplay of it. You're welcome, Canada. I don't know why I said Canada. Just sounded funny. Self-revive, though, I think if they were going to do anything to any item this season that isn't the sniper, please, Epic Games buff the sniper, it would be to change the self-revive a little bit. I think that you should be either invulnerable when you're initially using the item, maybe it creates like a little temporary shield and then they can shoot you, or they need to lower the time that it takes to actually revive you to like 5 seconds, just that way you have a little bit more of a fighting chance. And something like COD, which I know also has this, I feel like it's a little bit easier to get away with using this, but just in general, this item just doesn't feel like something that you really need to worry about picking up. But if you do have one, hey, you have the option to go ahead and give it a try. A couple of other things that they added in this season. So instead of dropping off of the battle bus, at least at the start here, you surf into the map. And I'm going to go over why this is an amazing change. Firstly, it forces you to explore POIs that you probably wouldn't have previously explored, essentially removing hot drops entirely, at least temporarily speaking. Of course, when the battle bus comes back, it is going to go back to being that sort of thing where everybody's probably going to drop Sandy Strip or Battlewood Boulevard or whatever POI has the best loot or whatever. And with the surfing, you're essentially locked into one part of the map. You can move around a little bit here and there to kind of angle and plan your drop a little bit better, but just in general, you're not really in full control on where you're going. You'll see a POI and you'll want to go to that specific POI, but you more than likely are not going to make it to that specific POI because it might be a little too far away, so you just have to settle and either land somewhere completely different, or, well, that's really it. And I actually kind of like this. It adds to the randomness of Fortnite, the RNG aspect of Fortnite, but not in a way that makes things terrible. If you land in a POI you're not particularly a fan of, at least not initially, hey, I think that's a good thing. It makes you explore more of the map. It makes you see more of what is around, and it makes these POIs that are on the edge of the map a lot more interesting to me, at the very least. They also added rift anomalies. Now, these are something that I don't really think I need to talk too much about. They're just kind of random little events that'll kind of happen in the game. It's not really a guarantee that they'll even happen in your match, but if they do happen, currently there is, I believe, 3 of them. The only 2 that I can say, yeah, actually there are 3. I just remember the 3rd one. So all 3 of them. One will be an anomaly where if you stand still for a period of time, you'll go invisible, or if you crouch, you'll go invisible, that sort of thing. Another one spawns supply drops around the map that'll give you that self-revive, some heals, and sometimes even a weapon. It's not really a guarantee if it'll have a weapon, but most of the time I've seen it's pretty low tier loot, nothing too crazy. You're mostly going to that for the self-revive. And then the other one just spawns rifts all around the map. It just makes it rift crazy. Now, these are actually kind of cute little additions that in my opinion don't super change the game. The invisible one's a little annoying, but I digress. I do think that when they add more rift anomalies, they have a chance of being pretty fun. I know there's going to be like a taco time one, and then I think there's going to be a couple of others as well. I don't quite remember the specifics, but there are other rift anomalies that we do have to look forward to here. I think the other pretty major change to go over is I'm going to go ahead and group this into new vehicles in general. So we did get one returning vehicle with the ATK from Chapter 1, and I'm so happy that something like this is back. We've gone pretty much 2 chapters without any like unique vehicles. We pretty much only had the sports cars and the SUVs, which are still in the game. Kind of a blessing and a curse, because you get these cool vehicle cosmetics, but then you get fucking morons running away from literally every fight, literally ever. If you do that, just uninstall the game. I don't know why you're playing a combat-based game if you're going to run away from every fight. But then we do also have the reboot van. Now, what am I referring to with reboot vans? Aren't they stationary? For a long time they were. So with this chapter launch, there are drivable reboot vans. Now, it's not a guarantee that every single reboot van is going to be drivable. There are still reboot vans that work exactly how you think they would. They're stationary. You just kind of go up to them, get your teammate back in, that sort of thing. But the drivable ones, you'll be able to tell that they are drivable because, well, obviously you can walk up to them and it'll say drive. But also there will be boots that will be on the stationary ones, kind of like the yellow boots. Remember, like Chapter 2, that would just prevent a car from being driven? They should really bring that back, actually. In this situation, it won't have the boot on it, and then you can hop in and just drive it around. It does use a lot of gas, so you kind of want to not boost all the time. And when you are boosting, it does play a siren to kind of let everybody know, hey, I'm driving a reboot van, come fight me. And in this situation here, I actually don't hate it. I think that this is a really fun idea, being able to drive around these reboot vans. There's also a fun mechanic with this where, let's say you have a teammate who got downed, you can throw them in the back of the reboot van and they'll get rezzed in the back there. So that way when they are done being rezzed, they'll just be shoved into like a passenger seat or something along those lines. I tried to test and see if I could throw like a random ass bot into a reboot van, and it just wasn't working. But this was a cute mechanic. I haven't really done much testing with it. I'll definitely get back on this in future weeks and let you know kind of how I'm feeling about it there. There is one other major change this chapter that I am a gigantic fan of. They changed how gold works. Previously, the way that gold worked was that it would transfer from match to match. So let's say you got 3,000 gold in one match. When you go into that next match, you're still going to have that 3,000 gold, and it would cap out at 5,000. Now, up through Chapter 6, Season 1, this was fine. I didn't have an issue with this. But then in Chapter 6, Season 2, they introduced buyable reboot cards. You could go up to a reboot van and purchase a teammate's reboot card if you weren't able to get it in time. Now, on paper, this is a fun idea. You can do buybacks and you can get your teammates back in the game. However, in execution, due to how gold worked, it led to a lot of people fleeing fights at the first sight of danger and then just buying their teammate back in. And it would be really annoying because you spent all that time fighting them just for them to easily come back into the game. I just did not like this. This was not a well executed change. With this chapter, since gold is no longer match to match and you have to go out of your way to get as much gold as possible, it really does come down to a risk reward situation. Let's say, for example, you go up to a vending machine, of which there are actually different types of vending machines now. Let's say there's a weapon in there that you really want that's really high rarity. Well, you can go ahead and buy it, but it's going to cost you a ton of gold. Now, let's say you get into a fight and your teammate goes down. Oh shoot, you spent all of that gold on that one weapon that you wanted, and you can't get your teammate back up. So you're going to have to play a risk and reward game to get the reboot card and actually get them rebooted. I think that does add a lot more strategy to it, because let's say you decide to not get the weapon and the same situation happens, then you can still do that thing where you run off, buy the reboot pack, and then get them back in the game. This is awesome. I love this. What I don't love is how they changed the down but not out state. Now, there's one mechanic here that I think is kind of fun. You can ragdoll. This is not a ragdoll. I've seen people online saying, "Oh my god, I love these ragdoll physics." This is like the equivalent of a cylinder rolling down a hill. This is not a ragdoll. You want to see ragdolls play something like Team Fortress 2, where when you die, your body just goes flying and your limbs are going in all sorts of different directions and whatnot. Those are ragdolls. Hell, even play Human Fall Flat. Those are ragdolls. This is you rolling down a hill with funny animation, and it's still fun. I'm not saying this is bad. I think it's hilarious, and I got a lot of laughs out of this in the initial days here. However, I think we need to not be disingenuous here. These are not ragdoll physics. Ragdoll physics are not in Fortnite. Quite frankly, I'm kind of happy that they're not in Fortnite. I know I might get flamed for that, but just to be completely honest with you, I don't think that something like that belongs in a game like Fortnite. I don't feel like it would really jive with the overall vibe that the game has. Just my general opinion, though. Now, when it comes to this down but not out state here, of course you can roll around. You can still get finished pretty easily. It's nothing too crazy. You're just given a little bit more mobility while you're down. That sort of thing. I don't completely hate it. However, there is one thing I don't like about this. When you're down, you can get into a vehicle. Now, you can't drive the vehicle unless you're that one dude on Twitter who just for some reason got knocked the moment he entered the vehicle. That is a glitch. Hopefully they fix that. No, when you get knocked, you can get into the passenger seat of a vehicle, and your teammate can get in the driver's seat and just drive off and then get you rezzed. Now, gotta be honest, I don't like that change purely because it makes it once again too easy for people to run away from fights. This has been an issue since Chapter 5, and it really needs to be addressed. I feel like they keep trying to add stuff or change things that will kind of negate that, but then they add another feature that just encourages people to continue running away from fights. I'm not a big fan of this change. I hope that they kind of maybe second guess how it kind of works or something along those lines. In the reboot vans, you can throw a teammate into the passenger seat, which the back two seats are actually on top of the reboot van, and res them while they're on the reboot van. I think in the case of a reboot van, that definitely works because, well, it's a fucking reboot van. You can get your teammate back up by throwing them in the back. It's not rocket science. But for a normal vehicle like a sports car, I think that this is just a generally bad change. You shouldn't be able to throw a down teammate into a sports car or an SUV. That's just my personal opinion. Or an ATK, because those are back too. I think this is the one change this season I'm not a big fan of. And all in all, I kind of just hope they revert it, just in general. I don't think it's a good decision. Full stop. Anyways, that's kind of the general gameplay of Chapter 7. I think everything's off to a great start. This is a great chapter. It's really fun, really refreshing. A lot of really cool changes that actually makes the game feel new. The new UI as well is really good. For the most part. What did they do to the locker and the emote wheel, man? This is weird. The locker apparently is bugged right now. Epic Games has gone on record saying that they're going to be fixing it in a future update. But just to go ahead and give an example, let's say that I want to sort my locker to be, I don't know, by series. That's how I've done it ever since I've been able to. That's just what I'm used to with the locker. So I select by series, I select a skin, leave the locker for a couple of seconds. Then maybe I decide that I want to go and change my skin. So I go back and magically it's no longer sorted the way that I want it to. In the previous update, it was able to save the way that things were sorting. Again, apparently this is just an issue on Epic's end, but I think that this outlines a greater issue. They are constantly feeling like they have to change the UI every couple of chapters for some reason. And while this one's a glitch and the locker in general is fine, what's going on with the emote wheel? Engaging with emotes has never been this difficult before. The old emote wheel is still in the files, and this new one, I I can't live with this. This is terrible. On PC, it's a little bit more bearable because, you know, you just have your keyboard right there. You can type in an emote and then you can just select the emote. But imagine doing this on controller. I timed one of my friends doing an emote and it took almost a full minute for them to even find the emote. With the previous emote wheel, you know, it was pretty easy. They were all alphabetical order and it wasn't difficult to find a specific emote if you knew what the names of the emote was. You could just go to that specific section, find it in no times flat. It's not a difficult thing to do. I honestly don't think that there's anything they can do to improve this new emote wheel that they added, so I'm just gonna outright say that they need to just hotfix the old one back in. Just completely revert this. This was a terrible change. This is the only change in Chapter 7 that I am not a fan of. Please, Epic Games, revert the emote wheel. That being said, the gameplay of this chapter is good. The lore is even better. Obviously, we had the live event. I didn't get any footage of it because I didn't want to crash my game, but it was an amazing live event. I felt like the Avengers Endgame of Fortnite live events, and everything about it was just fucking phenomenal. I'm not going to put any footage here because I don't like stealing footage from people, but in general, 10 out of 10 event. I think that is the best one that we've ever had. This surpassed the Chapter 2 finale for me, for sure. However, right after that, they actually did a full recap of the Fortnite storyline. It only took about a minute or so, and the way that they handled it was very well. They dumbed it down for people who haven't really been paying attention, and one of the main things they focused on was the 0 point and the 7. They talked about how they took down the Imagined Order, talked about how the last reality was one of their greatest foes, and they talked about how the fate of the 7 was unknown. And one of the main things that they're driving in with this chapter is how the 7 are split up. We don't know what their fate is, but it seems like they are going to slowly start returning, especially over the course of this season. Specifically, the one member of the 7 that's on the map now is the Order, who, ladies and gentlemen, is voiced by none other than one of my favorite voice actresses of all time, Laura Bailey. I love Laura Bailey. She's doing a great job. I'm glad that the Order actually has a voice now. Fucking love the goddamn Order, man. She is awesome. She slays. She slays, honestly. But yeah, I mean, the lore can really be chalked up to the 7 are all coming to this new island because 0 point things are involved, and the last reality are also back. Specifically, Dark Voyager, who apparently is part of Last Reality. I think that's pretty cool. He's kind of like the tier 100 skin of the Battle Pass, and he looks fucking awesome. I love the Dark Voyager. He looks great, and yeah, there's not really much else to say about that. Pretty sure the Foundation is going to be returning in this season. I think it also leaked that the Visitor from the OG Season 4 Battle Pass is going to be involved as well. So, in my eyes, those are some of the best 7 members that we are getting back in the lore here. My personal favorite is the Visitor and the Foundation, so I'm glad to see that both of those are making a comeback here. Very glad, actually. And I'm just really liking where things are going. Fortnite has not been this interesting in about 3 years. I still think that Chapter 4 is the worst chapter we've ever had, and then the lore has been slowly climbing itself back up over the last 2 chapters here, but we are back in full swing. I'm not going to do any lore videos. That's not really something that I'm super qualified to touch on, so I am going to go ahead and say check out some other YouTubers who might be focusing more on lore and stuff. I'm just talking about the game in general here. This chapter is looking really great. I'm really excited to see where everything goes with this chapter, and I promise these videos are not going to be like 30 something minutes in length here. This was the only long one because it was a new chapter. The next upcoming videos are going to be 10-15 minutes in length, something along those lines. Anyways, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to give a like and consider subscribing to the channel. I know I haven't really been super active on the channel, but I'm trying to make a little bit of a comeback here, trying to hopefully get things rolling again here. It's not going to be just Fortnite content going forward either. I do have a couple of other videos planned for other games that I'm into, just generally other things as well, so you can expect those here too. There's going to be a pretty big one that I am working on here for sure. And yeah, thanks for watching. Thanks for sticking around. If you've stuck around this long, go play Fortnite. I don't really have anything to plug. Peace.